All right, so this one, right, is the Metabolic Reset Diet by Dr. Alan Christensen. First of all, guys, if I'm bringing it to you, I feel as though there's some good, solid advice here, and it's founded on sound, functional foundation, right? Like good scientific evidence. This was actually kind of new to me. I mean, I understood the liver played into it, but this book educates you quite a bit on what the liver does. Like I said, we're trying to squeeze this into a 30-minute spot. I'm going to touch on it, but you either have to ask me questions or just grab the book yourself. It's not a horrible read, to be honest, if you really want to go deep diving on that. But your liver controls a lot of how well we burn calories and process energy with our body, okay? And so that BMR, if it's functioning better, that means we get to eat more, which is always a win. Or you can lose weight faster, either or, right? So if you clean the liver, you'll have a more flexible metabolism. We're going to talk about what a flexible metabolism is in just a sec. So the goal of the diet is to cleanse our liver so it can function properly. And we have the example of Jean and Jeanette. So when we have Jean, right, Jean, they both have corporate jobs. Jean goes in and she's working and she's got her normal day and her normal function, and then somebody brings in, I don't know, muffins or donuts, right? That's, if you've been in a corporate office, that happens pretty much every day. So she has a couple muffins and she has her lunch and she goes about her business and she's good to go. She doesn't really feel any energy difference or anything like that. And her liver basically takes that extra energy of those extra calories that she wasn't planning on eating. It stores it, holds on to it, and boom to go. The next day she comes in and all of a sudden a project gets dropped on her desk. She gets slammed with work. And then boom, just presentation, all this stuff is going on. She was planning on going home for lunch. She doesn't get to go home for lunch. She has to work through lunch. Her liver takes that extra energy that it got the other day, goes ahead and utilizes that for day 2, and she's all the good. Now we look at Jeanette. Same exact situation. Jeanette eats the muffins, and now she feels a major sugar spike, and she's really drowsy afterwards. She finally feels like crap, and then she wants to eat more in the afternoon. The next day, she gets the extra project. She can't go home for lunch, and she's miserable. All she can do is think about food. She's starving, and she's hungry, right? And so she starts snacking on more stuff. Right? The difference would be Jean has a flexible metabolism and Jeanette does not. So we're going to talk about how we can get a little bit more like Jean, because I'm sure a lot of us can kind of identify with Jeanette. I know I could for a little bit. So here's what we have to understand. If your liver is clogged, it does not matter what or when you eat, you will struggle with processing the calories. By processing the calories, I'm talking about using that energy and not storing it as fat. Your metabolism can be tweaked. Okay, but this is what we have to understand. You will not be given a Brett Glenn style metabolism by doing these things. If you guys don't know who Brett Glenn is, Brett can eat about 5,000 calories a day, and if he doesn't eat 5,000 calories a day, he loses weight like a cancer patient, right? Like he loses weight really, really fast. I can't promise you that, but what we can do is get it to where it's more flexible. But most likely, if you've got your metabolism around 2,000 to 2,500 calories, it's probably going to stay there for the most part. But what we can do is if you have a night of fun or a weekend of fun, it's going to be a little bit more flexible to where you might not be punished immediately with those results. Okay? The reason this comes about is because this doctor dealt with a lot of people with liver issues. And basically, they find that there's only one way you can test your liver, and that's to biopsy it. And some of you guys have already heard this little spiel as I was trying to sell this to you guys. But there's only one way you can test your liver to find out if it's got fatty liver, if it's clogged up, and that's to biopsy it. The only time you would biopsy it is if you're going to donate part of your liver, right? And then they'll go in and donate that, or they'll go in and biopsy that to test that. What they found is that up to 40% of biopsies that they take, they have to reject the livers for donation because the livers just are crap. They're fatty and they just don't work. This is just a random trial of people that are donating their liver, so it stands to reason that that's probably semi-true to the rest of the population as well, is that you very well may have fatty liver or working towards a fatty liver and you have no idea, because the modern American diet definitely lends to that, even when we're trying to be maybe healthy. Okay, so what does the liver do? It does a lot. It does a lot. It filters toxins, it aids in digestion, and it helps hormone communication. Every minute, like I said, I'm only going to touch on this real quick. There's a lot of detail about the liver in the book. Every minute your liver filters your entire blood supply. So it's constantly doing work. The biggie is it can store and hold on to energy and then dole it out as needed. Holds on to vitamins, minerals, modified amino acids, fuel, and hormones. Holds on to this stuff and then it sends it out as needed. That's pretty big. So if you guys have ever heard of essential fatty acids or essential amino acids, these are the reason we call these essential is because it's essential that you consume them because your liver makes the rest of them, right? Our liver does all this for us. We don't realize it. That's why they're essentials, because we've got our liver looking out for us that takes care of all this stuff. So the liver does that. All right, how your body processes energy. This is a pretty rough overview of this. But you have to understand, like I said, your liver can store this energy. We need small, steady amounts of energy throughout the day, every single day. We're constantly using a little bit, maybe a little bit more when you come into the gym, but for the most part, a steady thing. Problem is, when we eat, we're eating a huge surplus of calories about 3 times a day. So your liver holds on to that and distributes that as needed. Without that, we'd all have a much, much harder time to function. As far as the energy that your liver deals with, the currency that it talks in is glycogen and triglycerides. Those are the 2 main types of energy that your liver sends out to the body with the food that it creates out of the food that we eat. Glycogen and triglycerides. So what are these? Triglycerides are kind of the ultimate fuel. It's a very small condensed fuel source, and it can be made out of absolutely anything. Protein, carbs, fat, ketones, alcohol can be made out of anything. By the way, when you drink booze, it is turned into triglycerides. That's kind of important for people like me. It's going to be turned into triglycerides every single time. Like I said, it's a good fuel source and our body needs it. And you got to think coal, like a coal fire. Very slow burning, low heat, right? And it's what our body kind of is our preferred energy source a little bit as far as how it stores and creates. When we get over to glycogen, glycogen can only be made out of carbohydrates, and this is lighter fluid. This is boom, boom, burn fast. What you just did right there, you guys probably burned a lot of glycogen. When we do a longer, like grinder, like the meat grinder or Murph, you're going to probably burn a little bit more or less glycogen right there because we're using that stuff up quick and hard, right, with the intensity workouts. We're burning through that glycogen fast. So if the liver is too loaded with triglycerides, then it has nowhere to store the glycogen, okay, when you eat the carbs. If your liver is overloaded with triglycerides, and another way to look at triglycerides is fats in purgatory. They're not fat yet, but they're at St. Peter's gates and they're waiting, right? So they're fats in purgatory. The glycogen, and this is the bigger part of that, since it has nowhere to store the glycogen, that glycogen aids in the burning of triglycerides quite a bit. It really makes things a little bit easier there. And like I said, it's very difficult for the liver to burn through triglycerides without that being able to use that glycogen in the liver. Okay? A loaded liver will not take on any glycogen, but it will send it to be stored out as fat. So you need to basically understand, and also that the liver can lend to insulin resistance. How that kind of works, without getting too nerdy on all this stuff, normally what insulin resistance is we've got too high blood sugar, our body gets resistant, our body releases insulin, says, hey, insulin, go take that blood sugar out to our body, to muscles, cells, and everything, and then basically those muscles and cells finally get to where like, I don't want any more. And that's normally when we say, oh, I've become insulin resistant, pre-diabetic, type 2 diabetes. That's normally where we're going there. The liver kind of has another piece on that. If it's loaded with triglycerides and the liver is loaded, it normally will stop producing energy when insulin gets released by the body. Normally it'll say, shut down. The blood sugar's already high, insulin's taking care of it. When your liver's clogged, it never stops producing energy. It will never turn off. This is also called a leaky liver. So you can start to see with all the stuff the liver does, when it's not working well, it's gonna affect us drastically. There you go. Lower liver creates a slower metabolism. There's no doubt about it. So what to do? Eat less, right? Seems to make sense. It's overburdened. We need to eat less. Not really. Limiting your caloric intake will deprive your body of essential nutrients that your liver needs to function at its best. So think about this. If your liver's job was to dig a hole, right, and you just go low-cal, yeah, you're easing the burden on that liver, but it's having to dig that hole with its hands. If you give it the right, if it gives you that glycogen and it gives you the right nutrients, and phytonutrients that it needs, it's giving it a shovel so it can dig that hole a little bit deeper. Starvation does finally lead to some fat loss, because it will. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying if you starve yourself, you're not going to lose weight. You can. Has anybody ever watched Naked and Afraid? You realize you're going to lose weight if you stop eating food. But here's the problem. It doesn't actually cleanse your liver. You're just burning through your fat stores because you're no longer getting energy from an outside source. It gets doubly bad because our fat stores are also kind of like toxic waste dumps. Your body stores, a lot of toxins get stored in those fat cells, and when they're burned, they're released into the bloodstream. All types of nasty little toxins your body doesn't want. What needs to be done to those toxins that are in the bloodstream? Needs to go through the liver. The liver's already clogged, right? Just because we went low-cal doesn't mean the liver's not clogged. It just means it had a little bit less work to do. If it's still clogged and now you're throwing toxins on it, it's even more so overburdened, okay? What's more, and this is kind of a little on the outside of the book, if we do go low-cal, our body will tend to become a little bit more catabolic. It will burn, it'll start eating its muscle. Your own muscle mass as a fuel source as well, which is going to lower your base metabolism, right? To where we're burning less and less calories. So let's say you have an 1,800 calorie metabolism, you go down to 1,000 calories a day, you lose your 20 pounds, you start eating normal, and all of a sudden your base metabolism has dropped down to 1,500 calories because we lost a lot of lean muscle mass by going on a starvation diet. Does that make sense? So we might actually be in a worse spot from that than where we were. So you need to understand it does not matter the fuel. If there's too much of it, it will get stored as triglycerides. Your liver does not care what the fuel is. It's all the same to it. And if you have too much fuel, it will get stored as triglycerides. Those triglycerides multiply too quickly, it clogs the liver, your metabolism will go down, and if you keep eating like that, we will gain weight. So the goal, the plan, right? The goal of the metabolic reset is to clear out and heal our liver so they can function more efficiently. So protein is a priority. Shocker. Anybody who has worked with me on our little our consults, what am I saying? Protein, protein, protein. It is exempt from basically all types of rules on, for the most part, all diets. More protein because it does too many good things. And the good things that it does, how it helps lean muscle mass and everything, just kind of gives it free rein to say we don't ever want to cut protein. It's too important to cut, right? So protein's a priority, but fuel, carbs and fat, are considerably lower. And then the quality and the types of fats, but especially the quality and the types of carbs, are essential, okay? That we're getting the right kind. It's not just about going low on those, it's going low and getting good stuff in. And this is going to get less and less fun. So the carbs that we want to consume are mainly resistant starches, we'll talk about that, and high amounts of veggies. Shocker, veggies are good for us. I know, shocker, I hate eating them too. It is what it is. They provide the liver with that shovel, right? To clear out and dig that hole a little bit more so. So how does it do it? Activation and conjugation. So just to remind you, conjugate means to pair up and bind together, right? That's kind of what's going on there. So activation, we don't really need to worry about. A lot of different foods promote activation of waste, and it happens really easily. It's basically when the wastes are altered or activated so that they can be readily gotten rid of. That's activated. And like I said, a lot of junk does this. We don't really need to worry about this. So activation typically happens easier and faster than conjugation, brought on by a host of factors. Since it's happened so easy, we need to give our stuff the right stuff for conjugation. So conjugation is where the wastes that are activated get packaged with other nutrients and then shipped out. So conjugation is what we really need to focus on. Since it's harder to do, it's slower, and it takes the right type of fuel to make that happen. So conjugation is performed by amino acids, protein, simulated by phytonutrients, veggies, and aided by dietary fibers, resistant starch. Conjugation superstars, veggies, right? All that stuff right there. Good news, ladies, your livers respond better to this fuel for as far as conjugation than dudes. I don't know why, but it was in the book, so figured I'd throw you a bone as far as that goes. You can write these veggies down. You just need to eat a butt ton of veggies and a constant variety of them. We'll talk about that later. All right, so resistant starch greatly aids intestinal bacteria. Let me check real quick. All right, I'm running out of time. I want to go on a side tangent. The new book I'm reading is all about gut bacteria. It's going to be fascinating when I bring it up to the Sunday school. It's a kind of a new field of science and research. We do not have a lot of data on it, but the new data is absolutely fascinating, to the point that if they take a sample out of a human or a mouse, they've done it with mice, but it's been proven with humans as well, a gut biome sample out of a obese person or an obese mouse, and they put it in a non-obese person or mouse, that person becomes obese themselves. The gut bacteria we're finding that it rules quite a bit. okay? So it matters quite a bit. Resistant starch helps there.
Sounds like a gas.
Yeah, right? Quantity matters, but so does variety. I told you, variety, variety, variety. What are we looking for? Legumes? Legumes are kind of beans. So if you sat through my last nutrition seminar, which we're going to bring back, but if we sat through that last one, you know that with beans we're kind of on the do not eat list. That's because they've got phytates and lectins, which can block and hinder absorption of other nutrients, the nutrients in beans, but other nutrients that you're eating. I still kind of go by the same thing. They actually acknowledge that in the book, and they're like, a lot of people don't like it for this reason. They did not address that fact at all, but they just said there's been too much research and there's too many studies that people who eat beans are typically more healthy than people who do not. There's a lot of correlative evidence there, not a lot of causative evidence. So I'll stand to my thing. Beans are not poison, but we don't want beans to be an everyday, all the day source for our caloric needs, right? But beans are not the end of the world, and they are a great resistant starch. Starchy veggies, fruits, tubers, and resistant starch powders that we'll talk about here in a little bit. Potato starch and green banana powder. So low fuel. Carbs and fat for this discussion are going to be considered fuel. Protein does not. Like I said, protein's exempt. They've got immunity. So carbs and fat are considered fuel. All fuel adds work to the liver, so we want to go low fuel as possible. All right? However, we do still need fuel in our diet. So the prescription, what are we going to do? This is it. Protein shake for the morning and lunch that are high in protein, low in fuel. That being said, low in fuel, still very high in resistant starch and phytonutrients. That's what we want for our shakes for breakfast and for lunch. We'll talk about how we're going to get there. For dinner, one solid balanced meal in the evening with a plethora of veggies and a reasonable, likely small serving of resistant starch. Why do I say likely small? Because it adds up quick, right? What's a cup of rice? It's about 50 grams of carbohydrates. That's over 200 calories right there. It's a lot. It adds up quick. So normally what I'm going to tell you is around 150 or less calories from our resistant starch sources as we're going through that. Snacks, veggies. You can eat all the veggies you want. Boring, snoring, I get it. But veggies, veggies, veggies. And if we need it, right, you work hard in here, maybe some lean protein. And I'm talking about a lean protein source pretty much by itself, which I know is boring. But if you say, oh, I'll have a chicken sandwich for a snack, you're getting that extra fuel of a bread or a wrap. You're getting a lot of extra fuel there. We're trying to go low fuel for this plan. We'll talk about the duration of the time here in just a bit. So the shake, let's talk about that shake. Protein should be a minimum of 25 grams of protein. Minimum. I normally would say a scoop and then a half another scoop, right? Probably around that minimum of 25 grams and should be from the cleanest source possible. The Metabolic Reset diet encourages pea protein. They do this for 3 reasons. 1, it's very clean. 2, it's more alkaline based than acidic based. And 2, it lends less to HG1, which is a growth hormone that causes growth in the body. They're not CrossFitters, right? They're just looking at people who stay at home and take care of the family and maybe go to an office job. I'm fine with the whey protein base there, but it does need to be clean. What makes it clean? The fewest ingredients possible. If you look at things like Redcon's great proteins and First Form proteins, they taste fantastic. Look at the ingredients. There's going to be some words that you're going to have to really squint at before you pronounce them. Okay? So that's when we're getting away from the quality, simple ingredients. Resistant starch should be in 2 to 3 tablespoons, right? So we're getting a decent amount there of powder. And then we've got 1 cup of water and a small amount of ice. This shake will fill this up, okay, that I'm having you make. If you go extra on the water or if you go too much on the ice, we're probably going to overflow a little bit. That's what you're going to deal with. Why don't we want to use milk? Extra fuel, right? If we're getting like 1%, 2% or whole, we're getting carbs and fat and protein. That's a win. If we're going skim, we're getting carbs. So we don't necessarily want that extra fuel. We want to keep that low and just get that from the good source of protein powder. For flavor, that PB2 powder, it's great. Stevia, no other artificial sweeteners, and fruit can be mixed in as well. For overachievers, if you want to throw in some veggies in your shake, rock on. Just let you know, it's not necessarily going to make the shake taste any better, but it is what it is. I found that I can throw in broccoli, cauliflower, half to a full zucchini, half to a full cucumber. It's not the end of the world, guys. I mean, it might not be a party in my mouth, but it's not like, ugh, I'm having to pinch my nose. Lancer.
Where do you get this protein?
Where do you get this protein? NutriBio is an acceptable protein available at YPFS, and the green banana powder can be obtained at natural grocers. I did have a couple try to go to Whole Foods. They could not find. I haven't looked myself, but the one over by Barnes & Noble and Chick-fil-A in Fayetteville, they've got 2 different types of green banana powder. One's a little more expensive than the other. So I'd go for the cheap one. I don't know, whatever. You can get resistant starch powders on Amazon as well. They are significantly more expensive. Are they better? They might be. I really don't know the answer, but I know a little thing of resistant starch powder on Amazon is about 50 bucks. The bag of resistant starch green banana powder is about $12. So you do you when it comes to that stuff.
Ozark Natural Foods has it.
Ozark Natural Foods does as well? And it's a little cheaper than natural grocers? There you go. Leave it to the pains that hook us up. All right, so for dinner, protein. Ideally low fat, and like I said, a lot of it. I'm trying to think. I've yet to tell somebody, whoa, easy on the protein killer. You're way too high there on all the different consults that I've done. So go big. Feel free to go big on that. Low fat, you got to be careful. If we like to go red meat or we like to go fish sometimes, we can have not great protein to fat ratios. 3 to 1 is the minimum. That's 93 7-gram chuck. If we get less than that, you're getting too much fat in that burger. By the way, if you go to like Smitty's and you get a burger, you're getting 1 to 1 protein to fat ratio. That is not, I don't look at that as a protein source. I look at that as bacon. So it's just bacon. All right, veggies, veggies, veggies with dinner. And some resistant starch, but once, as I mentioned, we got to watch the quantity. It adds up quick. I love to use either sweet potato or red potatoes, those little microwavable, steamable. You put them in the bag. About 3 of those potatoes gives you around 110 to 150 calories. Chop those up, and I've got a little menu option for you guys as well as far as getting past this. So fats are needed, and they should be focused mainly at dinner. We're not getting really any fat with that shake. Right? Most likely we're not getting hardly any at all there. So we need to make sure we get a little bit of that at the dinner. We just got to watch the quantity. Protein should be high. Ladies, as far as your protein, minimum of 100 grams. Pretty much always. And this is tough for a lot of people to do. And normally it's something you have to plan out. Guys, 150, same thing. If you're not planning out your protein, you're probably gonna miss your goal. I've tracked mine, I'm just like eating, I look down, I'm like, holy crap, I'm at 150, I wanted to be at 200. It's like, when you're starting to get even higher levels of protein, you really have to game plan when you're going to eat, and you have to plan out your day as far as the protein. Okay, which is vital because this allows us to maintain our metabolism and our muscle mass. When we go low, if we're going low calorie and we're also low protein, we're losing muscle mass. You're coming here doing all this work and you get nothing for it, right? You're beating yourself up. Variety, guys, rotate those veggies and starches. I get it. We want easy, we want simple. We want to not have to think about it, and most of us want the same thing every day so that we can just be like, psh, it's easy. I get it, right? Sometimes life isn't easy. Sometimes life sucks. You need to rotate these veggies. The more you rotate your resistant starches and the more you rotate your veggies, the better everything works in your body. If you eat broccoli and red potatoes every day, that's awesome. If you eat broccoli, red potatoes, some rice, sweet potatoes, parsnips, yams, all kinds of things mixed in with asparagus, cauliflower, mixed greens, spinach, Brussels sprouts. What else? Help me out, guys.
Kale.
Yeah, kale. More and more and more. All types of veggies. Cucumbers, squash, zucchini. Now we're kicking ass, right? We're doing a good job as far as those veggies. And it makes, to be honest, it makes the meal a little bit more fun. I constantly rotate that. No more than 4 weeks doing this, guys. This is a low-cal diet. If we continue on past the 4 weeks, your metabolism is going to come down, and we don't want that to happen. This is a low-cal diet. It may not be a great fit if you're already on a very low-cal diet. A lot of the people that I've had do this, I've really jacked up their calories for 2 weeks to a month to raise their metabolism before we do this, so that their metabolism's high and it's going to function. This diet's going to function a little bit better. If you're already on like a 1,000-calorie diet and now we switch you over to this 1,000-calorie diet, I'm not saying it's going to hurt you, but it might not work as well, because a lot of us I found are on a very low-calorie diet and it's hampered our metabolism drastically as far as we're really in a hole. And for many people, all I've had people do is eat more food and they start losing weight. It's kind of crazy how that works. Shake should be around 250 to 350 calories. And guys, as far as your liver goes, all these things can ease stress on the liver. So sleep, air, cleanliness, chemicals, detergents, lotions, food containers, and air fresheners. If you're constantly rugged on the ragged edge with sleep, you're putting more strain on the liver. If we're air filters jacked up in the house, if you're putting on weird lotions and perfumes all the time, if we're using a lot of plastics all the time, it could be putting more and more of this stuff in your liver that your liver has to cycle out. So really, it's just coming down to more of that hippie style living is easier for your liver, more so there. So recap, shake in the morning and for lunch. Quality dinner. Shakes are high protein, have a high amount of resistant starch while being low in fuel. And the dinner is high protein and veggies with some cooked resistant starch, potatoes, veggies, beans, rice, some whole grains. Snacks are veggies and or a lean protein if we need it. Flavor options are stevia, peanut butter 2 powder, and fruit. And the diet should be fairly low cal for 4 weeks and then a higher cal diet with similar principles past that. Okay, basically the dinner that we made, we want to start doing that more often. Maybe we can go a little bit more resistant starch. I think that might be it. That is it. So guys, as well, I've got this. So Lisa and Brad, guys, if you haven't started following Protein with the Pains on Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff, they give you so many fantastic ideas for menus and recipes for awesome tasting food. It's great. You should check it out. They know what they're doing. If you're like, I need something a little bit more simple sometimes or something quick, something I don't have to think about, this is my little go-to. I call it my bowls, right? So basically you pick your protein, you pick your starch, extra add-ons if you want them, and then you pick your sauce. Throw it in a bowl, mix it up, and you just eat it. This is pretty easy and it can be pretty dang quick. I've emailed or texted this to some of you guys. It's right here, you can roll with it. This could definitely help you out with your dinners in the evening. And it definitely can help you out in the maintenance after we get to the 4-week reset if you guys want to play around with this. As far as salads go, guys, go big on the salads and chop in and put in other veggies, right? If you've never thin sliced zucchini or cucumber and put it in your salad, it's fantastic. Zucchini is really good in a salad. Just really thinly slice it. You'll find on here I've got it, and I'm a fan of my salad as well. I love Asian sauces. And they mix well with all kinds of things. They mix well with guacamole, weird, and they mix well with ranch, more weird. But man, they make some good flavors out of that stuff. Okay, so it's a way to make it more tolerable for you. Maybe losing the small battle of, doesn't that have a lot of salt? We're losing the small battle to win the big battle, right? That's what we're going through there. Come grab these on your way out so you can get an idea of bowls. If you guys have any more questions, now's the time. Anybody have any? Lance.
Liver's clean after 4 weeks. Or what?
So, right, how do we know our liver's clean? Like I said, there's no set way to know unless you biopsy it. But what I found, if you know me very well, you know my weekends are slightly indulgent. And so what I found is that this was my metabolic path during the week. Scale would go down, I hit the weekend, whoop, and there's this thing right there every single time. And I found the more that I focused on this, that whoop, wasn't quite as big the next day. Like I said, it doesn't make your metabolism from 2,000 to 4,000. It just makes it more able to deal with a surplus of calories from a meal or a 2 meal. But if you go in and you spend the week eating pizza, whiskey, cake, pizza, whiskey, cake, pizza, whiskey, cake, nobody's liver is going to be able to deal with that, right? I mean, it's just too much. But it's fun. So yeah, I'm not demonizing you for it. It's fun. What?
Do you have cheat days?
Yeah, that's the whole point of this, to make you easier to handle cheat days, right? But as far as affecting this, the more cheat days you have, the less results we're going to get from it. But yes, I used a cheat day every single week when I did this because I'm me. All right? Any other questions?
How often should you cleanse your liver?
Fantastic. Yeah, I thought I got to put that in there. This should be done. How often? Thanks, Lance. How often can we do this little 1-month plan? No more than 4 times a year, right? You need to give yourself a 3-month break basically in between that. So it can be done again and again and again. And it's not a bad thing to do a shake in the maintenance for it. Like I still do a shake sometimes when I'm like, hey, I want to throw in some veggies and I just want to get a real low-cal protein snack that's going to get me from hour 1 to hour 3 or hour 4. It can get me through. So it's not a bad thing to do. You can still do the shakes. We just want to get a little bit more calories past that so we can maintain our metabolism from having it drop too low. If you want a little more details on this, guys, when we have our nutrition seminar, sign up. We'll go for it. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to put these out here. Don't forget to grab one. Thank you for coming to our first Sunday school. Let me know if you liked it or didn't like it.